Hi everyone. Before I start to discuss my topic, let me introduce first myself. So I am Ryan Dave M. Loyola, and for today's video, I will be discussing Darwinism, Darwin's theory of natural selection. So on July 1, 1858, Charles Darwin announced his hypothesis of species evolution through natural selection. So for this discussion, I will be discussing the natural selection and factors influence natural selections or factors of natural selection. So moving on to the discussion, I am going to define natural selection and I'm gonna give you some ideas of what is a natural selection. So number one is the natural selection. Natural selection is the most famous and most important theory of evolution. It is the process through which populations of living organisms adapt and change. So basically, natural selection is a mechanism for adaptation and evolution. Furthermore, this theory of evolution through natural selection says that those organisms who have the finest adaptation to their environment or surroundings have a better chance of surviving and reproducing. It simply means that the organisms who have the traits that suits to a specific environment will survive and they have the chance to reproduce. Basically, it talks about the survival of the fittest. So moving on to the factors of natural selection. I have here four factors that influence the natural selection. First is the struggles for existence. Second is the variation and adaptation. Third is the survival of the fittest. And lastly is the formation of new species. So first is the struggles for existence, or also known as competition. This simply refers to the competition among species members for food, habitat, and other necessities. So how does competition influence natural selection? Well, simply by finite amount of resources available. So those members of species best adapted to the environment will take advantage the resources available compared to others who have not yet been adapted the situation. So this is a basic factor of natural selection and important. Why? Because it helps the other members of species to evolve and adapt and change. So that's the importance of the competition among species. So one of the example of competition is the intraspecific struggle. Actually, there are three. It was divided into three, but I also provided one. So next one is the variation and adaptation. Darwin's theory relied heavily on his understanding of how individuals of the same species differed. So variation and adaptation is the inherited traits that increase survival mutations in an organism are called adaptations. So each individual or organism has a unique set of hereditary characteristics. So as you can see in this picture, in this photo of a bird, the ancestor finch, this one, which is the original species, can be seen here. So when natural selection occurs, other species will gradually evolve features that distinguish them from the original species, allowing them to survive and adapt to their environment. For example, because of natural selection, this insect eating finch beak is different to original species. So this allows this insect eating finch to acquire its own characteristic that will help it, or this specific insect eating finch, this will help it survive in its particular environment. The same way goes to these two other species. So next one is the survival of the fittest. So as I said earlier, those who has the best traits will most likely survive to their particular environment. So survival of the fittest is the individuals with the best characteristics or adaptations have the best chance of surviving and reproducing. So natural selection acts on an individual's phenotype or traits or characteristics, not the underlying genotype. Even if carriers of a trait show no symptoms of a recessive disease, they can still pass it on to their children. So last one is the formation of new species. So new favorable variations appear and supplement the favorable as time passes and each generation passes. After many generations, we will see that species variations become so numerous that new species emerges. So this is one of the factors that influence the natural selection. So that would be all for this video. I hope I discussed it well. And Once again, this is Ryan Dave M. Loyola. Thank you very much.